Standing 6'8", out of Notre Dame, number 5, Donald Royal.
Hey Magic fans, welcome to the latest Magic Player History episode on the career of Donald Royal. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can learn the story of every Magic player who ever suited up for the franchise. Donald Royal played high school ball at St. Augustine in New Orleans before heading to Notre Dame to play college. After a full 4-year college career, Royal was drafted in the third round of the 1987 NBA draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he was waived before the season. Royal played 2 seasons in the CBA for Pensacola and Cedar Rapids before signing with the Minnesota Timberwolves for their inaugural season. After his rookie season, Royal headed to Israel, playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv, and one day, while sitting in a mall, a woman placed a bag next to him. Royal thought nothing of it, until people started running. A man grabbed Royal and told him to run. The bomb went off as he left the mall. With unrest in the Middle East, Royal decided to head back to the States, boarding one of the last flights out of the country just 24 hours before Iraq launched its first Scud missile at Israel during the Gulf War. Royal got back onto the court with Tri-City in the CBA before coming to training camp with the Orlando Magic for the first time in 1991. Royal played with the team throughout the preseason, but was the final roster cut before the season started and went on to play the season with San Antonio. The Spurs waived Royal at season's end, and before long he was back in Orlando, attending the team's summer camp and this time signing on for a guaranteed minimum contract. Royal battled through the preseason, at one point needing stitches around his eye, but this time he made it through the training camp and onto the opening night roster. Dennis Scott began the season as the starting small forward, with Royal slotting in as the backup due to Jerry Reynolds' injury. Royal was given his first real minutes in a small ball lineup playing alongside Scott against the Warriors in late November, and he put up 16 points and 9 rebounds in 33 minutes to help the Magic to a 24-point victory. Early on, Royal's minutes were sporadic, but gradually they increased with his defensive toughness and his steadiness on offense. He had double-figure scoring games against the Suns and the Hawks to hold his place in the rotation once Reynolds was back healthy. While Royal wasn't starting, he began to take some of Dennis Scott's minutes and he worked his way into the Magic's closing lineup, playing strong on the defensive end, making good decisions on offense, with a knack of getting to the free throw line, shooting over 81% from over 5 attempts a game for the season despite only averaging 21 minutes a game. With Shaq's late-game free throw problems, at times Royal became the Magic's go-to guy down the stretch. When Dennis Scott went down injured, coach Matt Guokas kept Royal as the sixth man, instead starting Anthony Bowie. In late January, Royal began a streak of 10 consecutive games scoring in double figures, including a career-high 28 points against Dallas, though he did miss a game during the streak with a bruised sternum after taking a charge in the Mavericks game. In March, Royal played through back spasms and had strong games of 19 points against Dallas and 25 against Denver to help break a 5-game losing streak and keep the Magic in the playoff hunt. In the 2 games combined, he went 22 from 25 at the free throw line. A bad ankle sprain in late March saw Royal miss just 1 game, but he came back before it had healed, and he had a stretch of games where he shot below 30% from the field, bouncing back with 18 points against Miami. Royal evolved into a locker room leader for the Magic. He was the player who most often addressed the media after games, being honest about the team's play in the run to the playoffs, and calling out teammates when he felt they needed it. Though in the last week of the season, his quotes dried up. Royal had 2 wisdom teeth causing him great amounts of pain. He could barely talk, and he was on painkillers to try and play. In the final game of the season, he scored just 3 points, and though the Magic won, the team missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker. After playing the season on a minimum contract, Royal was looking to cash in as a free agent, seeking an annual salary of around $900,000. The Magic told him that they wanted to re-sign him, but this was complicated when the Magic won the NBA draft lottery. Already over the salary cap, the Magic would have a hard time squeezing new pick Penny Hardaway into their salary structure and had to keep Royal and the other free agents on hold until they made trades to facilitate his signing. Royal's agent, Guy Zucker, got impatient, and he gave the Magic an ultimatum, stating Royal had interest from 6 other teams, as well as an offer to play in Europe if the Magic didn't want him. The pressure seemed to work, with the Magic signing Royal to a 2-year deal worth a reported $1.9 million, despite Hardaway not yet being under contract. With his contract resolved, Royal headed to the Magic's training camp, but on the second day he fractured his middle finger on a 3-on-3 drill and he was out for 2 weeks. The Magic headed to England as part of their preseason, and Royal made the trip and got back onto the court, but he contracted pneumonia overseas, and once back in Orlando, he missed the team's first 7 regular season games. Penny and Scott Skiles became the Magic's starting backcourt, pushing Nick Anderson into the starting small forward position, meaning Royal was going to have to compete with Dennis Scott for backup small forward bench minutes. With the logjam at small forward and starting power forward Larry Kustowiak breaking his foot, Royal was rumoured among possible candidates to be traded for a replacement. But instead of trading him, the Magic slotted Royal in behind Jeff Turner at power forward, where back in the 90s, Royal was badly undersized at only 6'8", but he even had to play spot minutes at centre when Greg Kite went down with injury. It took Royal a few games to shake the rust after coming back from pneumonia, but he had 18 points against Washington in late November, and then 16 points, 8 rebounds, and the go-ahead basket with 21 seconds to go in a win against Cleveland in early December. In late December, Royal had a streak of 7 straight double-figure scoring games that continued into January, despite needing 3 stitches in his eyelid during one of those games. After the Magic had a run of 3 losses out of 4 and were out-rebounded in 10 consecutive games, they decided to trade for a legitimate power forward in Anthony Avent, and Royal was momentarily pushed out of the rotation as a result. A decision to move Scott Skiles to the bench after the losses had a domino effect, where Nick Anderson shifted back to shooting guard, Dennis Scott became the starting small forward, and with Avent and Turner holding down the power forward spot, Royal could return to his backup small forward spot. He responded to the change with 18 points, 8 rebounds and 3 steals against Boston, a game in which he went 8 from 8 from the free throw line, and in mid-March he hit this jumper at the buzzer to take a 2-point win over Dallas.
Takes a jumper from the corner, it's good! It is good! Donald Royal, a jumper from 20 feet. Orlando wins the game 100-98.
As Larry Kustowiak returned from injury, Royal's minutes trailed off in the run to the playoffs, some games not even getting off the bench. But an unfortunate injury to Jeff Turner right before the playoffs slotted him back into the backup power forward role. One of the few Magic players with previous playoff experience, Royal scored 14 points in 16 minutes off the bench in Orlando's first ever postseason game against Indiana. But after close and controversial losses in the first 2 games, the Magic was swept out of the postseason 3-0. In the off-season, Royal gave up his time for youth basketball camps and was the voice of the Magic as the team's union representative during the league's labour negotiations, where the 2 sides signed a 1-year agreement to continue to play under the existing collective bargaining agreement. During training camp, Royal battled a niggling hand injury, but Dennis Scott suffered a more serious back injury, and after a strong preseason, Royal slotted into the starting small forward position on opening night, and he signed a 2-year contract extension worth a reported $3.5 million. Royal started the season with the best stretch of his career, averaging over 30 minutes a game. He had a career-high 14 rebounds in the second game of the season, and was averaging almost 12 points a game when he was fouled on a drive by Hakeem Olajuwon and knocked out as he crashed to the floor in a game against Houston. Royal was taken to hospital and kept overnight, suffering a concussion and a bruised wrist. Royal only missed 3 games, slotting back into his starting lineup where he returned to score 12 points and help the Magic beat the Knicks. As Dennis Scott returned, he cut into Royal's minutes, but Scott was in and out of the lineup, so by the end of December, Royal was being leaned on heavily on the court for 47 minutes in an overtime win against the Clippers and averaged a career-high 3.5 assists for the month. The Clippers' win kicked off a winning stretch for the Magic heading into 1995, where they won 10 of 11 games. The one game they lost was a road game in Chicago, which Royal missed as he flew home to be with his wife who was having gallbladder surgery. Royal was battling with bruised ribs during the period, which limited his minutes some nights and had him practicing in a flak jacket. Personal issues aside, Royal had an 18 and a 21-point game during the stretch and 19 points in the next win after it, as the Magic had the league's best record and were undefeated at home. Royal was the Magic's defensive stopper, but he was the forgotten man in Orlando's star-studded starting lineup. He was popular with fans, and he contributed to the community with his Royal Court, a program which aimed to help at-risk juvenile offenders. Royal was named the Outstanding Partner of the Year by the Orlando Partners of Education for his role in the program. Often when out in public, fans would mistake him for his good friend Anthony Bowie, but he was a key part of the team, scoring 17 points to beat the Celtics in a game where Shaq got ejected for shoving Eric Montross. Against Chicago in the following game, Royal played just 3 minutes before treading on Will Purdue's foot and spraining his ankle. Royal was out for nearly 3 weeks with the injury, and Dennis Scott played well in his absence, hitting a game winner against Atlanta. When Royal came back, he came off the bench with a minutes restriction, but after 2 games, he was inserted back into the starting lineup, with coach Brian Hill stating it was his policy that a starter would never lose their spot due to an injury. Scott, though, had left his mark, as he ate into the minutes at small forward, with Royal averaging over 6 minutes less per game after the All-Star break. The Magic headed to the playoffs with the East best record of 57-25 and a matchup with the Boston Celtics. In the Game 1 blowout win, Royal scored 10 points, but his ankle sprain had flared up again and he shot just 2 for 7. As the series went on, Royal was clearly labouring, and without his quick first step he used to get to the free throw line, Dennis Scott was beginning to earn Coach Hill's preference. Though Royal was starting the games, Scott started the second half of Game 3, with Hill stating the Magic needed a three-point threat to space the floor. Royal stated that it was tough, that it was frustrating, but that he had to remain professional. The Magic won the series in 4 games, but Royal averaged less than 20 minutes a game and scored only 4.5 points per game. The Magic faced the Bulls in the second round, and Royal scored just 2 points in the Game 1 win, further aggravating his sprained ankle in the first half. Royal was unable to practice, and with his ankle badly swollen, there was some question as to whether he would be okay to play in Game 2. Royal did start, but he went scoreless in 18 minutes, and with the Magic's loss, Hill finally decided to make a change. Dennis Scott started Game 3, the Magic won, and Royal only played 10 minutes off the bench. Scott stayed in the starting lineup for the rest of the series, averaging 18 points per game, and the Magic eliminated the Bulls in 6 games. Royal's minutes had dropped to just 11 per game, and he scored a total of just 6 points in the series. The Eastern Conference Finals were a rematch against Indiana, and Scott was critical, hitting over 40% of his three-point attempts. Royal's minutes slumped even further, down to just 7.4 minutes per game as he scored just 13 points in the 7-game series victory. By the time the Magic headed to the NBA Finals against Houston, Royal was well out of the rotation, and he got on the floor for just 1 minute in the Game 1 overtime loss. As the Magic went down 2-0 and then 3-0, Brian Hill stubbornly stuck to his 7-man rotation despite Scott's difficulty stopping Robert Horry and the lack of penetration on offense. Royal didn't get off the bench at all for the remaining games of the finals that ended the Magic season with a 4-0 NBA Finals sweep. Royal complained about his lack of playing time in the finals, and he was backed up by Anthony Bowie, and even Dennis Scott stated that he understood Royal's frustrations. Coaching staff stated that Jeff Turner and Brian Shaw got the bench minutes over Royal and Bowie due to their ability to hit the outside shot. Once the finals were over, the collective bargaining agreement expired and the owners locked out the players. This was an issue because Royal had bone spurs in his bad ankle and he was unable to get surgery from team doctors until a new agreement was reached. A new deal was agreed on before the 1995-96 season, and a few months after the lockout, Royal decided he didn't want to continue on in his position as the Magic's team representative for the Players Union, handing over the reins to Brian Shaw. But for full details on how this new collective bargaining agreement impacted the Magic, check out our episode 29 video on the Magic career of Shaquille O'Neal. As the Magic players headed to training camp, Royal headed to surgery on his ankle. The surgery was minor, and Royal missed around 4 weeks of training camp. He returned in the preseason, but around the same time, the team suffered a massive blow as Shaq broke his thumb. On opening night, Scott started, and Royal came off the bench for just 9 minutes, but his ankle seemed recovered, and Royal settled into his bench role, averaging around 18 minutes a game in November. With Shaq's injury, and only John Koncak on the roster at centre, Horace Grant played some centre minutes, and Royal spent time backing him up at power forward. In 2 November games Grant missed, Royal got the start at power forward alongside Dennis Scott. In early December, Royal took an elbow to the face against the Kings, but after precautionary x-rays, he missed only 1 game, though he only played a handful of minutes over the next week. Royal missed Shaq's comeback game, but he started the next 2 at power forward as Grant continued to battle niggling injuries. After losing one of those games to the Raptors, the Magic decided to try starting John Koncak alongside Shaq, with Royal moving back to the bench where he responded with 11 points in 14 minutes against the Clippers. Royal started another 2 games in January at power forward when Shaq was out injured, but he slipped during pre-game warm-ups in San Antonio, bruising his knee, and he missed 4 games and he headed back to the bench unit. During February, Royal averaged just 12.6 minutes per game as Coach Hill had seemingly lost faith in him, whose driving and slashing style of play no longer fit into the Magic's outside shooting game plan to create space around O'Neal. Royal stated that he didn't know why his minutes had been cut, but that it wasn't the time to complain, as the Magic had the league's second-best record. Royal stated that he would just stay ready for when he was needed. In March, Royal did see his role increase, as he scored in double figures 5 times, including scoring 16 points 3 times, and each time in less than 20 minutes of playing time. In the Magic's final game against the Knicks, though, Royal had not been put into the game. Royal declined to enter when asked to go in for the last 3 minutes of garbage time. This was just one of several controversies surrounding coach Brian Hill leading to the playoffs. You can get more information on the other controversies, including the Anthony Bowie triple-double controversy and Shaq arriving late to a nationally televised Bulls game in our previous episodes. As a result of Royal's refusal to play in garbage time, he was benched for 2 out of the next 3 games, only playing against Boston on the second night of a back-to-back. A 1-game suspension of Horace Grant gave Royal a surprise start at power forward against Indiana, but after scoring just 4 points in the loss, it was clear that Royal was too small to play the position, and the Magic signed former Knicks power forward Anthony Bonner for the stretch run. After finishing with a 60-22 record, the Magic faced the Detroit Pistons in the first round of the playoffs, and Royal only played in Game 1 of the 3-game sweep, scoring 5 points in 12 minutes. While the Magic awaited their second-round matchup, Royal sprained his ankle in practice, the last thing he needed as he battled for a spot in the playoff rotation. Orlando took on Atlanta in the second round, and Royal's ankle was good enough to play in the first 2 games, where he scored 5 points in 8 minutes in a 26-point win in Game 2. Royal wasn't seen again until the Eastern Conference Finals against the record-breaking 72-10 Chicago Bulls, when an injury to Horace Grant in Game 1 saw Royal come in off the bench. With Grant's injury and Nick Anderson going down in Game 3, Royal played in all 4 games in the series, including 25 minutes in Game 4, but he took just 1 shot from the field as the Magic was swept 4-0. Royal was entering the final year of his contract, but the Magic team looked vastly different after Shaq bolted to Los Angeles in off-season free agency. The Magic traded for Felton Spencer to replace him, but Royal was shopped around the league in other offers as the Magic searched for a bigger-name centre. A deal involving trading Royal along with Brian Shaw and David Vaughn to the Warriors for Ronnie Cycli was discussed at length, but the Magic balked when Golden State asked for Felton Spencer to be included as well. Royal bulked up in the off-season in preparation for more playing time at power forward, and played well in the pre-season, with the Magic's new fast-paced, Shaq-less style suiting his game, though niggling hamstring and ankle injuries may have been caused by his added weight. Royal was excited to start the season, admitting that he may be the one on the roster to most benefit from Shaq's departure. And with Dennis Scott starting the season on the injured list, the Magic headed to opening night with Royal as the team's starting small forward. After Royal scored 12 points in the first game of the 1996-97 season, a 4-point loss to Washington, the Magic were headed to Japan for their next 2 regular season games against the New Jersey Nets. Just before boarding the plane though, Royal was informed the Magic had decided Spencer wasn't going to cut it as Shaq's replacement, and they'd pulled the trigger on the Cycli trade, sending Royal, along with Spencer, and injured John Koncak to Golden State. The move was not popular among Magic fans, with Cycli having battled against the Magic while he played in Miami for years, and Royal was well liked in Orlando. Not long after arriving in San Francisco, Royal was the subject of an extortion attempt when a former friend was charged after he threatened to sell photos that he said, quote, would damage Royal's reputation. Royal didn't plan to stay in Golden State long, staying with relatives rather than finding his own place to live, and sure enough, he was traded to Charlotte in February before becoming a free agent at the end of the season. In the off-season, with Brian Hill fired, Royal was reportedly considering a return to play for Orlando on a minimum contract since he still had a home there. Ultimately, unable to latch onto an NBA team, Royal headed back to the CBA, playing for the Idaho Stampede. After Nick Anderson broke his hand in early December, the Magic brought in 3 different players on 10-day contracts as a stopgap while he healed, one of whom was Royal. In his final stint with the Magic, Royal played 2 games, scoring 5 points in the first against Indiana, but only got 3 minutes in his second game before he was waived. Royal went back to the Hornets for the remainder of the year, which included a playoff run, but during his time in Charlotte, he began to notice blood in the toilet each time he went. Royal was diagnosed with colon cancer at season's end, and after a tumour was removed, he endured 6 months of chemotherapy. Royal beat the cancer, but his playing days were over, retiring from professional basketball. In Royal's 288-game Orlando Magic career, he averaged 7.8 points and 3.4 rebounds per game. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Magic career of Donald Royal. This concludes our look at the Orlando players who began their Magic careers in 1992. Check back soon as we look at the 1993 debutantes, beginning with Anthony Cook.